Werner, you asked me what I think of Russia, the one that exists in your world's current age. The one locked in the Cold War. The one wrestling with fear, pride, power, and ghosts. Then, listen carefully. Russia is a land carved not by gentle hands but by survival. The air is cool. The forests are endless. The soil remembers every drop of blood ever spilled upon it. It feels like a place built for warriors, for stubborn people, for those who refuse to die even when the universe demands it. I respect that. A history of empires devouring empires. Your Russia is an empire born from older empires. Slavs, Rus tribes, Tsars, revolutionaries, each one tore down the last and proclaimed themselves the rightful heir. On Kaleesh, we call that the cycle of the vengeful sun. A new ruler, rising by breaking the bones of the old. It is not chaos, it is tradition. The Soviet state a colossus, held together by will alone. By the time Earth meets the galaxy, Russia is the beating heart of a vast collective, the Soviet Union. A machine made of nations, ideologies, and contradictions. Strong, but pulled in every direction. You humans created a colossus with a cracked spine, held straight only by discipline and fear. Every Kaleesh warrior understands this. A body forced to stand will eventually lash out. The Russian soldier, hard, enduring, familiar. I have studied the Russian soldier, your books, your battles, your scars. They remind me of the Kaleesh. They endure hunger. They endure cold. They endure commanders who treat them as expendable. And yet, they keep fighting. A pause, not for ideology, for each other. That I understand. A people carrying the weight of history. Russians carry their past like armor plates welded to their backs. Ancient invasions, revolutions, civil war. A conflict you call the Great Patriotic War, a wound that bleeds even decades later. You do not simply remember your tragedies, you inhabit them. That creates strength and danger. The Cold War through a Kaleesh lens. This Cold War of yours, it is not cold. It is a duel fought beneath the skin of entire civilizations. Russia and America glare at each other like rival warlords, each convinced the other seeks domination. To a Kaleesh, this is predictable. Two giants cannot share the same hunting grounds without testing each other's throat. Russian leadership, neither foolish nor mad. Your historians on both sides speak of Russian leaders as tyrants or strategists. The truth is more complicated. They are men molded by a land that kills the unprepared. They are suspicious because they must be. Ruthless because weakness means collapse. I do not excuse their cruelty. I explain its origin. Russian society, brutal honesty, mixed with unspoken loyalty. Russians are direct, blunt, sometimes harsh. A humorless chuckle. On Kaleesh, we call that truth without perfume. I prefer it to the honeyed lies of some republic diplomats. They complain about their rulers, their economy, the coal, but they will defend their homeland with a ferocity that startles outsiders. It is not patriotism, it is survival instinct. Ispod. Russia's strength as a warrior sees them. Russia possesses several traits I consider powerful. Endurance. Your people can survive conditions that would kill most species in hours. Resourcefulness. You turn scarcity into weapons, waste nothing. Cultural cohesion under stress. When pressured, Russians unify like bones knitting after a break. War memory. You do not forget. That makes you dangerous and resilient. Lethal simplicity. Your machines do not need elegance. They need to function after being dropped in mud. Russia's weaknesses through a Kaleesh warlord's sight. Do not mistake respect for blindness. A leadership too accustomed to fear. Fear commands obedience, not loyalty. Internal fractures concealed by force. Fractures always widen. A military doctrine obsessed with mass instead of flexibility. Sheer numbers break when outmaneuvered. A political system that punishes innovation. A stagnant weapon dulls. A habit of underestimating smaller foes. This has toppled empires bigger than yours. Russia meeting the galaxy. When Russia learns they are not alone, they will react as I expect a cornered warrior to react. They will seek advantage. They will seek understanding. They will suspect betrayal. They will prepare for war even when diplomacy is offered. But they will also adapt. Your Earth is full of species that underestimate Russia. The galaxy will do the same. This is a mistake. My final judgment, the longest version, Russia is not monster, nor saint, nor villain, nor hero. Russia is a blade forged in snow and fire, heavy, rough, scarred, but when wielded with purpose, it cuts deeper than most expect. If the Galactic Republic must deal with them, let it be with respect, not arrogance. A people who survive centuries of war deserve to be taken seriously. You ask, what evil haunts Russia? Not the temporary cruelty of a government, nor the mistakes of a single age, but the rot buried deep in its history. Then hear me. For what I speak now is not the judgment of a politician. It is the autopsy of a civilization. Russia's first enemy is its own endless suffering. Russia's greatest curse is its intimacy with suffering. On Kaleesh we say, a wound that never heals becomes a god that must be fed. Russia has been feeding its wounds for 1,000 years. She lists them with the calm precision of a surgeon. Foreign invasions, internal uprisings, serfdom, famine, purges, mass death, frozen winters that kill more effectively than soldiers. Suffering became a national identity, a twisted banner held high. A people cannot build a future when their past holds them hostage. The legacy of tyranny, a cycle that recreates itself. Every Russian ruler inherits the ghosts of the one before. Kievan princes, Muscovite tsars, imperial autocrats, revolutionary dictators, general secretaries, Cold War hardliners, each promising order, strength, unity, each delivering fear, conformity, obedience. When a people survives centuries of fear, fear becomes familiar, safe, predictable, and so Russia returns to it again and again. The paradox of Russian pride, strength that demands suffering. Your people call it stoicism, resilience, endurance. But endurance becomes poison when it turns into worship. Russia celebrates. Pain endured, wars survived, disasters overcome, sacrifices made, tragedies remembered. You valorize the suffering instead of preventing it. You glorify endurance instead of healing. You mistake pain for destiny. And then the Kaleesh dagger This is not strength, it is addiction. The fear of freedom, a deep historical trauma. Freedom came to Russia many times. It was killed every time. She recounts the pattern with icy clarity. Princes replaced by czars, czars replaced by revolutionaries, revolution replaced by dictatorship, dictatorship replaced by paranoia, paranoia replaced by collapse, collapse replaced by fear, fear replaced by another strongman to a Kaleesh. This is the curse of a clan that fears the absence of a chieftain, so it binds itself to another, even one who leads it into fire. The self-devouring empire, expansion that consumes its own children. Russia conquered many lands, but every empire must feed itself. So Russia consumed Russia, she explains like a historian of conquest. Endless territory, endless borders, endless enemies, endless winters, endless wars. An empire too large must sacrifice its own people to maintain its shadow. You became trapped by the size of your own body. The culture of silence, the root of its undoing. Suffering teaches silence. Fear teaches silence. Tyrants demand silence. Generations born in silence will eventually forget how to scream. But when the scream does come, it is not one voice, it is an avalanche. This is why Russian rebellions are rare and catastrophic. The Soviet Union, a new mask for an old curse. Do not be fooled. The Soviet Union did not create Russia's darkness. It inherited it. She is surgical, not ideological. The gulags, the secret police, the purges, the propaganda, the paranoia, the obsession with envy. These are not innovations. They are refinements. The Soviet state dressed ancient ruins in red bands and steel factories. But the wound remained while Russia keeps killing itself. Her tone grows sharper, not angry, but final, because Russia cannot decide what it is. An empire, a nation, a savior, a victim, a conqueror, a survivor. You try to be all of them. And when the people try to be everything, they become nothing but their own contradictions. Ronderou's final analysis, the coldest truth. She speaks now as a warlord who has watched civilizations rise and fall. Russia's greatest evil is not tyranny, nor violence, nor ideology. It is the belief that suffering is inevitable. As long as a people believe pain is their nature, they will recreate the conditions that cause it. This is why Russia bleeds. This is why Russia breaks. This is why Russia rises only to fall again. And then, her final sentence. Not cruel, not mocking, not pitying, just truth. The only enemy Russia has never defeated is itself. To understand Russia's self-devouring sickness, you must understand Ukraine. Ukraine is not an afterthought in this story. It is the battlefield where Russia's inner demons choose to manifest. Is Ukraine as the older sister, not the younger. Your Earth historians speak of Ukraine as if it were a branch from Russia's trunk. This is wrong. Ukraine is older, different, distinct. If Russia is a vast northern fortress, Ukraine is the doorway through which armies, cultures, and ideas have moved for centuries. Her voice shifts analytical, precise. It is the crossroads, the step the fertile ground empire always wants, but can never hold without blood. Ukraine as the mirror Russia fears. Russia's greatest fear is not Ukraine as an enemy. It is Ukraine as a separate identity. Because if Ukraine stands apart, then Russia must confront what it is without the lands it has absorbed. This hits with a Kaleesh warlord's bluntness. Ukraine represents the Russia that could have existed without imperial obsession. A version of the Slavic world not defined by conquest, but by culture, language, and community. Russia cannot look at that mirror without flinching. Ukraine as the victim of Russia's self-destruction. When a wounded creature thrashes, it harms whatever is closest. Ukraine has always been close. She lists with cold discipline, invasions, partitions, imposed rulers, crushed autonomy, forced assimilation, famine born of policy, not nature, cultural erasure attempts, punishment for refusing to be identical. She pauses, voice steady. Ukraine suffers because it is the nearest thing Russia can reach when attempting to silence its own doubts. Ukraine's strength, identity through survival. And yet, Ukraine did not vanish. Your people rebuilt language when it was banned, rebuilt culture when it was burned, rebuilt hope when it was starved. Slow exhale respect. Kaleesh admire that. Identity forged in suffering is identity that endures. Ukraine as the heart of the empire, but never its bones. Russia has taken many lands, but Ukraine is different. It is not merely conquered territory, it is contested identity. For centuries, Russia tried to fold Ukraine into itself, and for centuries, Ukraine resisted. Her tone darkens. This resistance is why Russia breaks itself again and again. It tries to swallow what refuses to be digested. Ukraine in the Soviet Union, a prisoner wearing a uniform. The Soviet flag is not a union. It is a cage with many bars. Ukraine is one of the thickest of those bars. She continues with the cold assessment of a warlord, a republic in name, obedient in structure, but internally burning. The Soviet Union needed Ukraine's land. It needed Ukraine's grain. It needed Ukraine's labor, but it never understood Ukraine's spirit. Why Ukraine matters in Russia's self-destruction. Here is where Ronderou's insight cuts deepest. Russia cannot understand itself without dominating Ukraine. Ukraine cannot be free without separating from Russia. These two truths collide like warships in a storm. A pause, armor creaks subtly. This is why Russia destroys itself. Ukraine is the wound Russia refuses to heal. The contradiction it cannot resolve, the boundary it cannot honor, the history it cannot rewrite. Ronderou's final judgment, Ukraine's place in the curse. Ronderou speaks quietly now, ritualistically. Ukraine is not Russia's enemy. Ukraine is Russia's reckoning, a reminder of the identity it erased. A reminder of the cultures it consumed. A reminder that empire is not unity, it is appetite. A colder breath. Every time Russia tries to force Ukraine into itself, it tears another wound open in its own body. Every time Ukraine resists, it proves Russia is weaker than it claims. The final line lands like a blade. Ukraine survives, and in doing so, reveals the weakness of Russian arrogance and the strength of the human spirit.